friends, my name is Victoria and welcome back to another video. I'd like to apologize for being gone for a bit. I was just recently reminded that this is the internet and anything I put on here can be seen by anyone at any time, and it made me uncomfortable. But look who's back! One of my favorite things about myself is my duality in terms of my taste in entertainment. Like, I'm very into some things that are undoubtedly masterpieces, but I'm also into a lot of things that are overwhelmingly flawed. But none of my interests overlap as beautifully in those categories as Olivia Rodrigo and the High School Musical franchise. We've already established the importance of the High School Musical films in my life, particularly the second one, and while I think I've mentioned it before, it should also just be obvious that I'm an Olivia Rodrigo fan because I'm a teenage girl. Anyways, knowing this, you can only imagine the joy I felt in 2019 when I got to watch her star in the Disney Plus series High School Musical, the series. The title alone is a disaster, but I'm genuinely such a huge fan of this show, and tons of people feel the exact same way because the past two seasons have been incredibly successful. But in between those two releases, Olivia underwent a pretty significant change in her career. To briefly cover the timeline, Olivia released her debut single, Driver's License, in January of 2021, and I'm sure you've heard of it. It was an insanely big thing and broke an insane amount of records within like a couple weeks. Anyways, she was planning on releasing her debut EP a little bit after that, but since that song was insanely huge, she actually followed up with her debut album, Sour, in May, and that was obviously a huge thing as well. Essentially, Olivia is now considered a pop sensation who occasionally acts on the side, and while I became a fan of her because of her acting, I would say that this is a pretty accurate description of her, at least currently. So, this presents the question, would it be wise for Olivia, who plays the main character on the show, to return for season 3 of it, assuming we get one, when her music career is very clearly the priority right now? Now, she herself has said she doesn't know where things are headed for her acting-wise, and the showrunner, Tim Federle, said that he would never want this series to stand in the way or like hold her back from her fame. So, today I'm asking the question, could the show survive if she left it? We're going to be taking a look at various storylines in season 2 to see how they set up for this potential next season, as well as how crucial her character, Nini Salazar, would be in these sort of things. I'm obviously going to be spoiling a lot of stuff today, so if you can handle that, you can join me. Let's go. I think it makes the most sense to just start with her story this season. So Nini's main issue in season 2 was essentially finding herself. She makes her way to the Youth Actors Conservatory but feels pretty restricted creatively from the beginning and starts to question whether she made the right choice. Now this was a pretty quick jump, like the leap from, oh, I want to go here so bad, to like, I hate it here. But I actually don't have a huge problem with that because I do think it's a kind of accurate depiction of the youth mind or whatever. What did irk me though was the progression or lack thereof of Nini and Ricky's relationship while she was away and then thereafter. The long distance was challenging for them, which makes sense, but that plotline just wasn't very captivating for me. Like in episode 3 when they kept trying to meet up with each other but couldn't get it right. That was just kind of annoying to me. I feel like Ricky could have just met Nini in the hospital or something. And basically from that point on, I started to get kind of tired of them as a couple, or more specifically how the writers were treating them as a couple, because I was a diehard Rini stan in season 1. I don't know whether I should display this as an attack on the characters or the writers, but essentially by the time Nini got back home for good, they just weren't the same. I don't think they communicated their needs to each other very well, and also Ricky had his own home problems to get through, so their breakup in episode 8 was the right choice, I think, and it was understandable, but it was also disappointing because their relationship seemed like a very important driving factor of season 1 that got thrown away kind of quickly. Now, if a large portion of Nini's storylines throughout this series have revolved around her relationship with Ricky, and that is now over, what direction could she be headed in for season 3? Well, we already kind of know that. As you may recall, in season 2, Nini created a music Instagram account where she could post more of her original songs, and it supposedly blew up. I don't know what's considered viral in like Salt Lake City, but she definitely got some attention, including from a big music producer. And season 2 ends with her taking a call from Jamie, who is Gina's brother, and is also a big, successful music guy who lives in LA and could seemingly take her career to the next level. Do we see where this is going? They are going to send Nini away, and we're never going to hear from her again unless it's like a casual reference where they're like, oh, I wish I was in LA like Nini. It happens in every show. I'm not looking forward to it, but I would also like to say I don't think it'll be as bad as you might think it is, because believe it or not, I think Nini actually had one of the least interesting stories this season, and her departure might not be a tremendous loss, like story-wise, when you see the growth of some other characters throughout the show this season. So, allow me to elaborate. First of all, Gina and EJ were undoubtedly major parts of this season, and I think they had more interesting paths to follow than Nini and Ricky did, who are supposedly like your main two, even if they kind of annoyed me as well. I was not a fan of Gina pining after Ricky for like half a season, and I know that's kind of controversial, but I will say that when her and EJ emerged as a duo, I was like insanely happy. I would not have felt that way like a year ago, but EJ's character development this season was unmatched. Particularly one thing that really got me was when he got into Duke, his dream school, but found out that his dad kind of pulled some strings and he turned it down because he felt like he didn't earn it. I know that's just one example, but ultimately, I think he's matured to a point where he would be a really good fit for Gina, because she's been through a lot the past 2 seasons, and I don't think Ricky could have helped her with that, and I'm glad that she has grown to a point where she can kind of realize that too. Season 2 ended with her and EJ about to kiss, so season 3 probably wouldn't cover any more of that kind of slow burn stuff we've been seeing, but their relationship could still be a very exciting part of the next season, mainly because EJ is graduating and Gina is not. I'm very curious as to how the writers are going to continue to incorporate him in East High's story when he should probably have like better grown-up things to do, so I think that's cool. My main point is that Gina and EJ could, without a doubt, take over as like bigger characters in the event of Nini's absence. Moving on. Big Red and Ashlyn and Seb and Carlos are the best couples on the show, and I think I could watch like 3 seasons worth of them just being cute together. They're all very sweet to each other and good communicators for the most part, so I don't feel the need to like yell at them every episode, but also they're all really interesting characters individually. Like Ashlyn, for example, was such a good Belle, and I'm really happy she was able to get over her initial doubts about it because she realized how insanely perfect she is. As I consider it right now, I can't think of any like huge upcoming issues for any of these 4, aside from maybe Antoine continuing to pose a threat to Big Red, but I don't see Ashlyn doing that to him. Regardless, I don't think that this lack of like impending conflict means that the show can't carry on with them. I still think they're a really fun and unique group, and I think they have plenty of things coming their way. I just wanted to touch on that for a minute. And since I mentioned Antoine, I guess we can transition into a discussion on North High, which is East High's biggest rival. That's okay. Okay. We were introduced to several members of their drama department this season, and I think it's safe to assume that we'll be seeing more of them, even if it's in a way I'm slightly opposed to, but regardless, they will definitely have a lot to bring to the plotline table. As you might remember, the season finale included a scene in which Lily from North High told Ricky she liked him. Now, I don't want them together. I think she was very clearly presented as a villainous person, and I can't imagine her getting redeemed in an appropriate way, but this confession will definitely lead to a lot of drama, and I think it'll be fun to watch unfold. Also, Antoine, who I mentioned, is an insanely funny character. He's only had a few lines, and I've still been very drawn to him, so I think that if he was given more opportunities to say stuff, he'll definitely bring a lot of fun to this. And lastly, we have Howie, who is currently dating Courtney. Now, I'm still a little suspicious of him because of the way he was behaving this season, but I'm open to him not having ulterior motives either. Like, if they just want to have them be a cute couple, I'm okay with that. Ultimately, I don't think I'm that opposed to the North High kids. I'll start wrapping up soon, but another thing I think we should do next season, like genuinely, is look a bit more at Miss Jen and find out like what is wrong with her, because she basically told Ricky to kill himself in season 2 and was forgiven a little too quickly, in my opinion. I don't think that's something we should sweep under the rug. I don't know if I'm being dramatic about this. She said a big thing. Also, she changed the entire course of this thing by choosing Beauty and the Beast as the musical when they were ready to do High School Musical 2. We know I have my biases, but I think I can say that it was unprofessional to make that choice solely because her ex-boyfriend was like doing a big show and she wanted to impress him. I'm really upset about this for some reason. It's fine. I don't want to suggest like bringing in a new teacher entirely. I just think maybe put her in check. Anyways, I've been talking for a while, and I think I've hit all the main points I wanted to cover, so maybe it's time to just formulate a conclusion, because ultimately, while I love Olivia Rodrigo and think she has done some outstanding work on the series, we do have to acknowledge that it would be insane to ask her to return to this if it meant dropping or jeopardizing some larger portions of her already huge career. I don't know if this was intentional, but I think season 2 really did set up for her departure by A, giving us closure on one of the biggest relationships for her in this series, and B, sending her on a path that could take her to an entirely different place because of a different career route, which kind of parallels Olivia's journey, ironically. Now, if this does happen, it will obviously be disappointing because Olivia is insanely talented and also a really great part of this cast and community, but I also don't think it'll be an Office situation where, like, Steve Carell leaves and everyone immediately thinks the show deteriorated drastically. Because while Nini is definitely considered a main character, this is an ensemble show, and I think there are a lot of characters that could sustain the story if everything is executed properly. So, to answer our initial question, yeah, I think High School Musical, the musical, the series, could survive without Nini. Thank you for listening to my convoluted response. And now I am done, for realsies. Thank you very much for watching, genuinely. I can't tell if this was, like, easy to follow or not. It felt like I had a lot to say, and maybe not a smart way of saying it. But I love this show, and I love Olivia Rodrigo and all that nonsense, so I thought it'd be fun to talk about, and I'm really glad that you maybe felt the same way because you got all the way here. If you'd like to continue the discussion, you can leave a comment. If you enjoyed, you can like or subscribe. I'm very clearly not a YouTuber, but I make my efforts. My Laugh Olympics video recently hit 1K views. That's 1,000 of them, and I'm not deserving of it, but it's fun, right? Anyways, I really am done. So thank you again for watching, and I will be seeing you. Bye! I also wanted to briefly say, because I don't know where else to say it, I started listening to Greta Van Fleet recently. My life has improved significantly. Every song feels like what I can only imagine is heaven. It's like a whole new kind of magical. Really good they are. I really like Greta Van Fleet.